right, good afternoon, everyone. And thanks for joining us this afternoon. Particularly, thanks for bracing the Michigan cold that doesn't actually give notice. And that is why they say, well, here in Michigan, we get it. And thanks for many of our friends who are joining online. So we are glad that you are able to log in and join us this afternoon. So welcome to the first of the two series of this UMAPS colloquium. Before I begin, I would like to begin with a note of gratitude to those who continue to support the presence of our UMAPS scholars on our campus. First is the Office of the President. We are appreciative of the work that the President is doing to support research on and in Africa, particularly bringing our UMAPS scholars here. The Provost Office, then the Office of the Vice Provost for International Engagement, then the International Institute, and thanks to Mary Gallagher, the Director of the II, for joining us. Then the Department of Afro-American and African Studies, Center for Global Health Equity, Center for International Reproductive Health Rights, College of Engineering, and our faculty hosts and collaborators. I'd also like to thank the families of our scholars who let us borrow them for an entire semester. They've been here since the beginning of August. And thanks also to their respective universities for letting them come to join us at this time of the year. So today we have 4 excellent scholars who will be sharing their work with us, and I'll introduce them shortly. Once they are introduced, each of them will come forward to present in the order in which they are introduced, and they will have 15 minutes to present their work. At the end of the presentation, we'll have a Q&A, and for our Zoom audience, please type your question and we'll read them out to our presenters. So first on our list is Theoneste Hagenimana. Theoneste is an assistant lecturer in food science and technology at the University of Rwanda. He holds a state engineer's degree in quality control and analysis from the University of Saïda, Algeria, and a specialized master's degree in quality hygiene, safety, and environment from the International Institute for Environmental and Water Engineering, Burkina Faso. He is currently a PhD student at Egerton University, Kenya. His project, titled Evaluation of the Effect of Potato Peel Extracts on the Acrylamide Formation and Risk Education in French Fries in Rwanda, is what brought him to Michigan. His host is Professor Eric Martins of the Department of Microbiology and Immunology in the medical school. Is Professor Martins here? Thank you. Thanks for joining us, Eric. So Theoneste's presentation is titled Potential Health Risk of I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly, Acrylamide and Mitigation by the Use of Potato Peel Waste in Fried Potato Products in Rwanda. Please, let's put our hands together for Theoneste.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to my presentation with title Potential Health Risk of Acrylamide Mitigation by the Use of Potato Extract, Potato Waste in a Fried Potato Product in Rwanda. Starting talking about acrylamide, first of all, acrylamide is a is a chemical hazard in food, and is a processing contaminant. We cannot see acrylamide without processing foods, and the target of food are the food which are rich in protein and with the amino acids. When we process them at high temperature, we found out that acrylamide can be formed. We can see a list of many products whereby the study of many studies report about acrylamide, and what interesting is that potato fried products are the one which contain high level of acrylamide. So now we can say that potato may be a problem, challenging. Yes, of course, because we used to enjoy this kind of product. French fries, potato crisps, potato wedges, and potato tater toast. This one, we enjoy them, and they are very tasty and very delicious. So French fries and crisps alone contribute about 49% in acrylamide intake in the Western worlds. And we can note that young people are the most exposed. Acrylamide has health effect, adverse health effect in terms of toxicology, whereby we have two kinds of metabolism. The first one may be epoxidation of the acrylamide in our body, also metabolism by glutathione conjugation, whereby they are being linked with the DNA or hemoglobin in our blood. Their adverse effect reported is it is a probable carcinogenic product. Also, it can cause neuroplastic effect, while the third one may be a neurotoxicant in humans. Now, what are the mitigating existing mitigation strategies that we can prevent the formation of acrylamide? As we can see, it has a problem when you consume food containing acrylamide. We have like two groups of mitigation, whereby you can modify the precursor ingredient, means that the reducing sugars or starch in general and amino acid, especially asparagine. We can do it by breeding, plant management, and sorting, choosing the mature potato. We can also work on processing characteristic or processing condition in terms of cooking temperature, time, cutting size and shape of potato, frying technique in terms of steam frying, deep frying. Also, we can do branching and coating with the chemicals. But nowadays, there are trending mitigation strategy of acrylamide formation, whereby you can use plant extract. There have been a report about what kind of plant extract that we can use, such as tea, bamboo, grape extract, rosemary, aqueous extract, cinnamon, oregon, pomegranate flower, and so on. There are a long list of plant extract. In plant extract, the report shows that they have contributed to the reduction of acrylamide, where you can see on this table that the bamboo leaves and rosette extract have contributed in terms of percentage, has contributed a lot to the reduction of acrylamide. These plant extract, they are a trending use of them because they have some attribute, because they are natural, effective, and they are safe of application in the food industry. Again, they contain phenolic compound. As you can see on the list, there is a long list of phenolic compound you can get from plant extract. So now, is it potato peel a potential candidate for acrylamide mitigation? Of course, yes. The answer is yes, because plant extract, they contain a lot of phenolic compounds, and about 50% are contained in the peels. Is acrylamide a potential health risk in fried potato in Rwanda? we can see because the question is acrylamide in Rwanda, like, is it a potential risk? We have conducted a prevalence of acrylamide level in processed French fries in Rwanda, in northern province. And we took like 5 potato variety, such as Kinigi, Kirundo, Kuruseke, Tillet 58, and Pico. And we take them from farmers. I went to the farm, and in one sector, we randomly selected 3 farmers, and for each potato variety. And from a farmer, we took 1 kg from each farmer, and I got like 75 samples. These samples were taken to the lab for processing, and we use deep frying processing, and we processed 2 kinds of product, French fries and potato crisps. And after those samples were taken to the lab to analyze for acrylamide, using solid phase extract through Kachim's method, optimized one, and you quantify using liquid chromatography tandem mass spectrometry method. And as a result, so when you can see, when we processed example of what we can see from each variety, what you can notice, the color are different depending on the variety. What kind of information they can give to people, because sometimes people, when they are eating French fries, there is a kind of bias when we are choosing the good color, but when we talk about acrylamide, is very critical. And in terms of acrylamide content, we have seen that among potato varieties, potato crisps, they have a higher level compared to French fries, which means people who eat French fries, they are a little bit exposed than potato crisps. So, and we found that those values were a little bit higher than indicative value set by European Commission. And also we collected some chips from the market. Also, we found that acrylamide is higher in those products. What with this kind of prevalence, we found out also in Rwanda, there is a kind of gap in management of acrylamide, lack of data for consumption pattern in fried potato product. So what about French fries and potato crisps sold from food establishment? Because the standard is, there is a lack in standard in Rwanda. So this led me to the hypothesis, saying that there might be a potential risk of acrylamide in fried potato consumed in Rwanda. Also, the second one, potato peels extract can reduce acrylamide in French fries potato or in fried potato. This was like a big idea for my PhD thesis, whereby I wanted just to use potato peels in terms of and collect samples from from food establishment in Kigali City, analyze the acrylamide, also doing a potato peels extract, applying on a potato to see what kind of effect, so that we can reduce this kind of acrylamide. We do risk assessment of acrylamide. We need to do a risk assessment to know, are people in Rwanda exposed by like using collecting sample from food service establishment. You also collecting survey data on 410 consumers of French fries. We calculate, we have to calculate exposure assessment. Also, we calculate the margin of exposure, which is a good indicative to know or to decide if consuming this product is safe or not. This one, the data was like the data are not yet available for this assessment part. But what we did, we have collected the samples of French fries, and we sent to the lab, but the data are not yet available. So What about the composition of phenolic compounds and the glycoalkaloid in potato peels extract? It is also part of my PhD project, whereby I use 5 potato cultivars, the same potato cultivars, and trying to extract using 2 methods: decoction, whereby we boil like a potato powder in water. There is the other method, which is the advanced one, called the indirect ultrasound assisted extraction with sonication. Whereby you have to determine the
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Heitor, as the moderator told. I'm going to present on properties of green coconut fiber for fabrication and reinforcement of food packaging materials. In material science, most of our studies is based on properties to make selections of different of our material. That's the reason I will start here, the properties of green coconut. Okay. In terms of the structure of my presentation, I will talk about the introduction, and I will talk about materials and some results of these studies. One thing that I want to tell, this study is a part of my PhD work. Okay. As the title said there, we'll discuss about the properties of green coconuts. The green coconut's fiber is come from the coconut fruit trees. In these studies, we will focus mainly on this part. This is the structure of green coconut session. We can check here. We have different parts, but We will focus our study on these parts. In terms of production of green coconut fiber in the world, we can see we have different countries that are production, but most of production is in the southern of Asia. We are talking about countries of India, Vietnam, Sri Lanka, and other countries like Ghana, in Africa, in Cote d'Ivoire. This statistics not mean that there is no other production in terms of green coconuts in Africa. There is another country, even Mozambique, we have production in terms of green coconut fiber. But here we are talking about the top of the production. Okay. In terms of composition of this green coconut fiber, mainly the coconut fiber will find cellulose and lignin. That's the reason we call this lignin cellulose fiber, okay? And we have other types of components in terms of chemical. We'll find hashes and other types of materials. Okay, in general, in terms of physical, morphological, and chemical of green coconut fiber, we can find different types of composite. The chemical, the morphological, the physical of green coconut fiber, definitely it will depend on the biological characteristics and the treatment, the chemical treatment or physical treatment. Here we can see in terms of morphology, in terms of micro characteristics. Here we have three different coconut fibers, but here we have one that never paste form treatment, the raw one. Here we have one that have one treatment. If we see here, we have different structures in terms of morphological, if we see this. Okay. Here we have other types of characteristics in terms of physical and chemical. If in the same way, if it's a treatment, if it is a raw, we have different types of in terms of compositions of this raw material. Even in terms of mechanical and some physical properties on the green coconut fiber, it will depend on these characteristics that I told, the biological, the treatment that this fiber passes. Okay. Okay, in terms of application of this green coconut fiber, a green coconut fiber we can use for different applications. But in my case, I'm interested so much to use this green coconut fiber for packaging food. Here we can see different application that we can see. We are using this compost to do some, we can do shoes, we can do briquettes. There are a lot of products that we can do based on this coconut fiber. But on my study, I'm interested only on food packaging. Okay. In terms of my objective of these studies on my PhD, I'm interested to produce one compost based on green coconut for application packaging, technical, as I told before. And in a specific objective, I'm interested to produce one package that is bindless compost to improve the wettability of the properties. And I'm interested to develop one biodegradable and fossil polymer compost with high mechanical strength. This is the one part of my work here in Michigan. This is the first one that I've been done in my PhD. Most of times on material science, we'll work on composite. When we are talking about composite, we are talking about the mix of two different materials. On this case, on my case, all my package will base it on green coconut fibers and another materials. That's we call composite. Going to the specific study that I have been done on my PhD, I've been done one study on bindless and biodegradable compost from green coconut fiber to improve the wettability properties. As I told, most of time we'll work on compost. We'll use one we'll mix different material, but my base material, it will be on green coconut. And the objective is to improve the wettability. In the first part of my work, definitely we collect different types of green coconuts. We collect different types of green coconut and we process to get the fiber directly. Here we have this process, we grind it and we have different tool stretch and we dry and we grind and we got this green coir. Green coir, that's a fiber that passed from processing, okay? We have here the raw. After we get the raw, here there is a one process, this processing of grinding. After we grind and dry, some process that we will use. On this work, as I told before, that we work on composite material. We work on tender coconuts and jute fiber. Sorry, sometimes I'm just say tender and green coconut. That's the same thing. Okay. Okay. As I said that all the material that we are working on material science, we depends on properties. Before we decide to produce one package, that's very important for us to study the properties. This property, it will be physical, mechanical, and morphological property. Here are some tests that we use, like water absorption, thickness, water angles, X-ray for scanning and electron microscope, thermogravity testing. These all tests is to understand the property of the material. Which use we want to give every package, it will depend on the property. Even the shelf life of the package, it will depend on the properties of this material. Let's imagine we have high water absorption of material. Definitely we'll understand that this material will have low times in terms of this shelf life. Why? If a package have a high water absorption, that's probably to have a lot of microorganisms that will degrade this material. That's the reason we have to understand this. If, for example, we see here in FTR test, the groups that are present on that material, let's say OH group, it means that this material that's probably to have a lot of water on this material. Okay, that's the reason we have to study these properties. Okay, in this case, before we go into the production directly of we produce one composite with different composition. Here we can see, as I told before, all my material, the base of my material will be green coconuts, a green coir. We use jute. We use a different composition to find the best composition. This is the best composition we'll understand based on the properties, that properties I showed before, in terms of water absorption, in terms of what. Okay, here are some results that we got from our study. This is the result from scan electron, the morphology. That's very important to understand the morphology. We are talking about composite. Composite, there is a different material. We need to understand which relation have, if this material is binding or not. That's the reason most of times in these studies, when we want to produce a package, we use a bind to make the bind of different materials. Here we can see how this relation of this different material is there. Okay. In morphological test. Okay, other tests that we do, that's a water contact angle. That's very important to understand the relation of water with liquid, in this case, with water with different material. On this case, on my material. Depends on the angle that we'll find here. Here we can see there is a range of angle that we are finding here. There is a 15.8 to 15.6. If you have, in the case that we have, I will have to, in the case that we have let's say a 90 degree, it means that this material have a good relation. This material don't have a good relation with water. If we have above of 9, it means that this material is have a lot of have a lot of relation with water. How we can use this test? If we note, for example, having 9%, 9 degrees or in terms of water contact angle, it means that this material, that's very good. This material don't have good relation with water. As I told before, if we have a good relation with water, what will happen? It will develop a lot of microorganisms that will biodegrade this material. Okay. Other test that we do, that's a water absorption. How this material, they capture a water. Here we can see a difference in this different composition. You can see for the T1, T2, T3, we see that the T41 have reduced in terms of absorption of water. Okay. Other test that we studied, that's a thickness swell. When the material absorbs a water, the thickness of this material definitely will change. We can study this difference in terms of thickness. Here in this test, most of the time we put the material on the water. We have to see the difference of the thickness before sometimes. As you can see here, we put this material on the water. In this case, if we have to select one material, we will not use this TG1, we will use this TG4. It means that it's very less in terms of absorption of water. Thickness, swelling, and water absorption have a high relationship. Okay, here we have the FTR. On this test, we try to understand which groups, in terms of functional groups in chem, that are present on this material. As I told you, to define the properties of the material is very important. Okay, here we have the X-ray diffraction. That's very important to study the X-ray diffraction for what? To understand the crystallinity of the material. If this material is amorphous or non-amorphous, he will have a set of behavior. Most of material that is amorphous, you will not have a lot in terms of water absorption. Here, that's a test of biodegradation. That's important to start the biodegradation. Why? To understand how many times this material will take on the soil to degrade. In the world now, we are looking for some materials now in sustainable that is very degradable, like a natural fibers. Okay, here is the tensile test. In the tensile test, we try to understand the strength of this material. That's very important to understand the strength of the material to decide which material we'll use. Okay, after all these tests of physical, mechanical, morphology that we have been done, we have been selecting one material that we can use to produce our different materials in terms of package. As I told before, all these properties we use to decide which composition we can use that have a good water absorption, have a good morphology, have a good XRD and other properties. After all these tests, we decide to select one of these. And one of material that we select, that's a TG4, because have a low in terms of water absorption, have high tensile strength. And we use this to produce plate and egg tray. Okay, the moderate is 10. I want to only to show this. Okay. After we doing all that tests in terms of property, we take the composition and we're producing this package. This is a plate here, that's an egg tray that we produce. The time is going. I was on to show some. Sorry? Okay. I'm just working on material science, but my guide, Dr. Goodson, his work on laser. I'm just doing some work. I always want to show something about related of my group with Dr. Goodson. I'm just working on 2-photon absorption. Okay. 2-photon absorption, that's another science that we use to study the properties of the material that for different applications that we can use. With this test, we can understand the properties of the materials. Okay. In terms of energy. Okay. Yes. Here's some results that we got from the studies that have been made here. As I told this, that's another way of studies in terms of energy. Here, they use laser to understand the properties of material, but we use diet. This is some diets that we use here. And thanks for your attention.
I'm here.
It's on.
It's on.
Yeah.
Okay. Good evening. I'm here to talk to you about my topic, and it's titled "We Are More Than Settlers: Konkomba Negotiation for Belonging in Northern Ghana." Thank you. Okay, we have moved from East Africa to Southern Africa. Now we are in West Africa. So my topic is on Ghana, and I'm talking to you specifically on the Konkomba of Northern Ghana. And the Konkomba are a people that are found in Northern Ghana today. But before 1919, the area that you find the Konkomba today was located in the German colony of Togo. After in 1919, when the Germans were defeated in the First World War, that portion was divided between the British and the French. And so the Konkomba, part of the Konkomba fell under the French rule, and the others fell under the British rule. At independence, part of Togo that was being ruled by the British was added to the Gold Coast to form Ghana today. And so the part that the French rule is now the Republic of Togo. So effectively, the Konkomba are divided between Togo and Ghana. So because of this division, a lot of people think that a lot of Konkomba neighbors, they believe that the Konkomba are Togolese. And so because they are Togolese, they shouldn't have rights to land, they shouldn't have rights to chieftaincy, and they shouldn't have rights to political representation in Ghana. And sometimes they even forbid them to express their culture and custom freely. And because of this limitation that people have placed on the Konkomba, there has been a lot of clashes between the Konkomba and their neighbors. And these clashes has brought a lot of conflict, ethnic conflict between the Konkomba and their neighbors. So the literature, mostly on the Konkomba relations with their neighbors, they have always been studied primarily from the perspective of violent contestations between migrants and their hosts, which emphasize opposition and conflict, ignoring the many efforts that the groups have been making towards coexistence. So this study focuses on the many attempts that the people have been making to coexist. And I believe that this perspective of looking at the Konkomba relations with their neighbors would reveal a lot of complexities and nuances that earlier studies have ignored or they have missed. So who are the Konkomba? The Konkomba are an indigenous group in northern Ghana. And surprisingly, they are the indigenous of northern Ghana before they moved away towards the areas that the border met them. And so their neighbors, that's actually the Dagomba, the Nanumba, the Mampusi, the neighbors that actually regard them today as foreigners actually came to meet them. So the question is, how come an indigenous group has now become aliens or settlers in the areas that they had been? This is the larger question that my bigger project would address, but this talk cannot address it adequately. But one of the things that I want to point out is that the Konkomba have been very mobile. They are highly mobile. And one of the reasons for the people referring to them as aliens or foreigners or settlers has been because of this mobility. But it is not only the mobility. There have been government policies, both colonial and post-colonial government policies, that have made the Konkomba, or that have created the impression that the Konkomba are foreigners or they have been excluded from Ghana today. So one of the things that actually contribute to this exclusion is the fact that the Konkomba do not have chiefs. They have been excluded from chieftaincy. And that exclusion begins from the colonial period. But actually, it was not the fault of the colonialists, because the Konkomba themselves did not have chiefs. They were an acephalous group. And so when the British came, they applied the indirect rule system. And so they put the Konkomba, because they did not have chiefs, they put them under their centralized neighbors. But in the French side, on the French side, where the French ruled the Konkomba, even though the Konkomba did not have chiefs, they made sure that they raised the Konkomba clan heads to the position of chiefs. And so the problem the Konkomba are facing in Ghana is not, they don't face the same problem in Togo. So it means that the British rule has a hand in what is happening. Now, it is not only the fact that they were excluded from chieftaincy, and because they were excluded from chieftaincy, they could not have lands. The reason is that the British passed a number of laws that actually transferred ownership of lands from the land priest or the F priest to chiefs. So chiefs now control land, and because the Konkomba did not have chiefs, they could not control, or they could not have ownership over land. The third issue is local government. The Konkomba were not allowed to participate in local government. During the colonial period, it was native administration. And this because they did not have chiefs, they did not have native administration. And even in the post-colonial period, there were local councils in which the chiefs and local elected representatives actually made laws for the local areas. And because the Konkomba, they did not allow the Konkomba to participate in these local elections. And so because the Konkomba did not have participations or they did not have representation in these local assemblies, laws were passed that further marginalized the Konkomba. Example is in Nanumba area where the Nanumbers passed laws that made the Konkombas to farm for the chief. Every year, the Konkomba have to contribute people to go and farm for their chiefs. They have to pay rent for the land that they are settled on. They have to pay food produce. They have to pay some food produce to the chief when they harvest. When they have anything, they have to, pay some quota to the chiefs. And this has been happening, but in the 1970s, late 1970s, the Konkomba, because they did not have chiefs, there was lack of mobilization. In the 1970s, the Konkomba formed the Konkomba Youth Association, and this youth association began to mobilize the Konkomba. And this mobilization is not only antagonistic, sometimes they negotiated. And this is what I want to talk to you about today, specifically about the kinds of negotiations that they made. And in northern region, the Konkomba are found in several places. Their demands that they made was not uniform. They made certain radical demands in areas that they believe that they belong. This place is where they have power. And other areas, they try to be moderate in their demands. So in one of the areas that they try to be moderate is in a number of areas where they believe that they do not really belong. And so they wanted to be accepted. They said they should be accepted as indigenous in Nanu because they cannot really be said to be settlers because they were the indigenous people in that area before they moved out. So they appealed to oral traditions to say that, no, we are not really settlers in these areas because our grandparents had settled here before you guys came. And so because of that, you should treat us equally as you treat other Nanumbers. And the Nanumbers also said, okay, we'll give you concessions. We would allow you, now don't pay rent for the land you farm on, don't pay levies, just live as other Nanumbers. But the Konkombas wanted more. They wanted to have their own chiefs who will settle disputes among them. They also wanted to be part of the Nanumba Traditional Council. They also wanted to be allowed to appoint their own chiefs. But the Nanumbas said, okay, if you want all these things, we would grant you some of these things, we will grant you all this, but you must respect Nanumba customs and traditions. The Konkomba were ready to accept all the conditions that the Nanumbas had given them, except to respect Nanumba customs and traditions. Why is it that the Konkomba do not want to accept, to respect Nanumba customs and tradition? They argue that once they do that, their identity is threatened. They will not be they will not more be Konkombas, they will become Nanumbas, and that is what they do not want to be. So in Nanumba areas, these negotiations were going on, and in the Dangomba area, there was also another negotiation that was going on, and I said that in the Dangomba areas, the Konkomba believed that they were indigenous of that place, and so their demands were more radical. So they said, okay, we have chiefs, We want our chiefs now to be recognized as paramount chiefs. We want to have our own traditional council and be recognized by the government. We want to be able to settle our own disputes without recourse to the Dagomba chiefs. We want to have control over land. And the Dagomba said, okay, if you want paramountcies, we will give you. So the Konkombas demanded 1 paramountcy, and the Dagomba gave them 3 paramountcies instead of 1. Why? Because to have 1 paramountcy and a traditional council, the Konkomba will have a very formidable and organized ethnic group that will make further demands. So by giving them 3 paramountcies, the Dagomba effectively transferred that struggle between Konkomba and Dagomba to within the Konkomba themselves. They began to struggle among themselves to have power, to see who would represent the Konkomba interest. And that was effectively what the Dagomba wanted, so that it doesn't, they don't get to be confronted with the Konkomba every time. Now, in terms of land, the Dagomba said, as for land, the Konkombas cannot have it because they are not Ghanaians, they are Togolese. So that is it. So my conclusions. The conclusion is that the Konkomba made different demands in different areas that they settled in. And in Nanung, where they recognized their outsider status, they demanded integration. However, while demanding integration, the Konkomba paradoxically emphasized their ethnic difference. And in Dagwang, or in Dagomba, the Konkomba wanted to have equal rights as Dagomba, with their own chiefs and the land rights. And they obtained a certain degree of autonomy in Dagwang, but they believe that they deserve more rights. The attempts to obtain different levels of rights as citizens of Ghana shows that shows the variegated and layered kinds of belonging we have in Africa. And the studies have usually essentialized belonging as though one either belong or not. But in this study, we realized that there was always space for negotiation. There was always space for negotiation for more belonging. But this was a space which was never unconstrained. There was always contestations over these bargains. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Good evening, good afternoon, sorry. Well, thank you for having me. I'm going to be presenting a paper on BUTIRU, a pre-colonial iron production village in eastern Uganda. This is a presentation of preliminary results from archaeological survey of the villages that in BUTIRU and some surrounding areas in eastern Uganda that have little knowledge as far as archaeological knowledge is concerned. And I went out to try and investigate, or to seek to investigate, the nature of the archaeological assemblages of the place. This paper is a part of my PhD project that takes an archaeological approach to investigate the technologies of iron production in BUTIRU and surrounding areas in eastern Uganda. As an introduction, when we look at iron production, since I'm going to use an archaeometallurgical approach, this is a field of study that combines investigating the technologies, that combines elements of archaeology and metallurgy with a focus on the investigation and analysis of ancient metal artifacts, metallurgical processes, and the use of metal in past human societies. When it comes to technology in the context of iron production, it looks at the knowledge, techniques, tools, and methods used by societies to extract and produce iron from raw materials. It also gives us insights into the capabilities and advancements of ancient societies in terms of economic, social, and technological developments. This paper was guided by these objectives. First, to document the archaeological relics of BUTIRU and its surrounding areas, but also to characterize the archaeological assemblage and to investigate the influence of iron production on society's social and economic lives. BUTIRU is found in the eastern region, or in the eastern part of the country. It is found in a district called Manafa, like the map shows. But to tell you a little about Uganda, in terms of archaeology, Uganda is kind of young as far as studies or research in archaeology is concerned, generally, because it is one of the 3 original East African countries, that is Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya, and it had the first exposure in the 1920s. However, in the 1960s, due to wars and other things, archaeological studies kind of lagged behind. And you find that it is like now a virgin place that needs a lot of archaeological studies to understand our past, but also the history of our country. When it comes to archaeology, when it comes to iron production, you find that the western part of the country has seen a lot of studies, simply because initially when we had the first archaeologists, they had an interest in the western part of the country because it has a place called Bigovya Mujenyi that had an aspect of spiritual and supernatural, like kind of rulers, but also kingdoms mostly were located in this part of the country and the central part of the country. So there was a myth that they were trying to solve, to see how it was set up in that part of the country. So you find that there is a knowledge gap in these other parts of the country, and that is more or less the reason why I came out to look at this particular place. And to tell you more about that, you find that iron production in Uganda has seen studies on the development of the how iron production played a role in the development of pre-colonial kingdoms in the western part of the country. There are studies that have looked at the dating of the Iron Age in this part of the country. Then they've looked at the ores that are used in the production of iron. But also they've looked at a symbolism as it is embedded in iron production. And we can refer to scholars like Elise. She has done work from 2009 up to like 2018. We have Andrew Reid, 2014. We have Robert Shaw, who has done a lot of work in 1994. Then we have Telly Childs, 1995. We have Peter Schmidt, among others, that have done a lot of work, but mostly in the western and central part of the country. So when I went out on this study, you find that methodologically, I did archaeological surveys, and I was able to identify about 20 archaeological sites. However, intensive investigations were conducted at 12 sites, and excavations were conducted at only 5 sites. And the culture materials that were recovered included the pottery. We had lithics, there is slag, there is tuyas, there was an anvil, and also I got furnace bases. When it comes to the pottery, there is basically 2 categories. We have what we call urewe, which is depicted by decorations like groovy lines, there are wavy incisions. We also have fluted rims, but also we have a dimple bases, and those all are a reflection of the urewe kind of pottery, which is also an early Iron Age kind of pottery. We also have pottery that falls into the roulette category. This is a late Iron Age kind of pottery, and it is depicted by decorations like twisted roulette. We have knotted string, we have mammillations, we have carved wood, among others. And from my study, I find that 64% of the pottery is roulette, and then 34% is urewe tradition. I was able to recover an anvil, which is a depiction of iron production, especially the stage of smithing, and it measured about 40 centimeters in diameter, and it had these 2 hole depressions as evidence that it was being used at a particular time. However, I didn't get any hammers around this particular site. Then that is more of the pottery. I also recovered furnace bases. These were 3 from 3 particular sites, and I got the flat base, and the other 2 had concave kind of base. Then when it comes to the slag, it was categorized. We had the cake-like, then there was the floor slag, and the amorphous type, among others. Then I got tuyas that had that were clogged with slag at the distal ends, while others were flared at the proximal ends. Then I also come back to that. I also got a lithics, which fall into the MSA or Middle Stone Age and the Latter Stone Age continuum. I got flakes, I got scrapers, I got Burin's points, and many more kinds of lithics. But when it comes to the lithics, I didn't do a lot because basically my interest is looking at iron production. So I just analyze them for the basics, and maybe they will be for another study in future. My main focus looks at the iron production. So let's look at the technologies that are coming out of this study. We are getting a 2-stage process where we have smelting and smithing, but also we have evidence of a forced draft kind of technology, because of the tears that we are finding due to the clogging with slag. And then when you look at the flared ends, this is a depiction that there was, this was for accommodating the bellows as they are trying to pump air into the furnace. Then as I was analyzing the slag, most of the slag is or it's not magnetic. And this is my idea that probably these iron workers were really experienced in what they were doing. But also you may find that maybe the ore that they were using had that kind of content, but I've not gone into the chemical analysis of the ore or the slag, so I can't say much about that. But also from the broken walls of the furnace that I was able to recover, you find that the method they used for constructing of the furnaces was a coiling kind of method, and the furnace had an upturned lip or mouth. But also the soils that we are getting are ant-hill soils, but there are also no decorations at all that are depicted in here. Iron production is embedded in ridges. And in this area, the evidence we are getting shows no daub or no settlement debris that would tell us whether iron production was secluded or it was performed in the communities. I don't have evidence of that as per now. But also, we know that, for example, in Western Africa and Tanzania, for instance, that the iron smelters used to put pots under the furnaces. But in this situation, I didn't find any evidence of any pots at all that are normally found underneath here, and these are used for rituals mostly. Unfortunately, I didn't get any. However, from my findings, I got a particular piece of pottery that had a spout. This could probably be one of those that was used for rituals. That is according to Liaya 2019, who looks at the rituals and has this kind of pottery and links it to the rituals that were performed during iron production in that part of the region. When it comes to women and iron production, it is not really clear from the materials we are getting, but from the narratives, you find that the Smiths, because there is contemporary smithing in this area, the Smiths say that women are their mothers, and a mother cannot be put away from something that is so productive. For example, it brings in food. When they produce hulls, they're used in agriculture for food. So a woman is a mother who cannot be separated from iron production. That is according to them and currently. Also, these contemporary smiths, by the time we went there, they do slaughter cocks, especially white animals. And they say this is for purity, first of all, to heal the process. But the thing is that they no longer do smelting as it used to be in the past. And they only use a scrap metal because smelting with the process it has to go through seems to be difficult. But also the fact that the people who used to do this craft have really passed on, and the knowledge is kind of phasing out. So you find that even the people existing in these areas don't have a lot of knowledge as far as the indigenous kind of smelting is concerned. Actually, there was one who told me that the slag, they're just metallic stones that destroy their holes, and they're really disgusted with these kinds of stones. So I would understand what they're talking about. So to sum it up, I have to talk about the dating, because when you look at Uganda, you find that the earliest dates we have are 1,288, that is between 1,288 to 1,425 AD. And these were dates from an excavation in the western part of the country by Robert Shaw in 1997. So the dates I'm getting are, I'm using two methods. First of all, relative dating, using the pottery that I'm getting, that is the roulette and the Urewe kind of pottery. But it is surprising that the results that I got from beta analytics are kind of in correlation with these particular sites. Where I got the early Iron Age pottery is the same place that I'm getting early iron dates. So it is a good thing for me, I'm guessing, for my study. So in conclusion, what is it? After this, what happens? Well, I look at archaeology as it is young in my country. I expect this to be a stepping stone for more studies. But also, this is going to be, I want it to be a policy kind of document, because there are these particular areas where I couldn't do an excavation because people say this is their land. They don't want anyone doing anything there. So how can we coexist, archaeologists and the people who live on the land? I want the sites to be preserved, but also the people to be able to use their areas. So I intend to see how to work with the bodies that be, for example, the museum, and see how we can work this out. That is just the challenges that added to the land issues that we find in the field. That day it rained so much, and I had to find ways. I would like to acknowledge the ASC Center and my university for enabling this piece of work to go on. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Okay.
Oh, is this better? Is it on? Talk directly? Okay, yeah, I hear it now. I started by thanking you all. Joseph, I wanted to ask some things about the negotiations and the occasions in which the negotiations happen. What kinds of events are these? Who's there? And is this all done by an oral negotiation? Is there writing as well? If so, who's doing that? Just tell us a little bit more about how the negotiation process works.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. Yes, these negotiations, am I on? Okay, so these negotiations are almost done by writing. These are petitions that the youth groups and the chiefs write to authorities, especially during maybe conflict resolutions. They write papers, they write their positions, and they make demands, and these demands are replied to by governments and by the institutions that are doing the mediations. And so most of these negotiations are written, and the documents are available. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. My questions go to Joseph. Yeah, you made mention that the Konkomba are the first settler in the Konkomba people are the first settler in that Konkomba land. I now thinking, how come that being the first settler in that land, you lost possession? Well, one of the reasons you gave was that mobility. Is that when you are living, do you live, when the Konkomba people left, is it that they left without any artifacts, evidence, something, anthropology that will show that this land belonged to them? Because I still find it difficult to believe that being the owner of an area, how you all just live without any evidence to show that you hold the possession of that land. That's my question.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much for the question. In fact, this thing that we are talking about, it happened over a very long period of time. And so these settlements we are talking about was in the 1500s, in the 16th century, 17th century. And so, as I've intimated, the Konkomba are so mobile. And so, and also because they were pushed out by those that have settled in these areas. So mostly it's not like sometimes the land is still vacant. So once they move, people replace them and they begin to lose their attachment to these areas. There has been a study, an anthropological study of the names of certain areas that today there is no Konkomba there. But that study revealed that the village names correspond to the way the Konkomba named their villages. And this is a scientific study of these areas. So there are a lot of things. And even there are areas in Yendi. Yendi is the capital of the Dagomba state today. But that Yendi town was originally a Konkomba town. That even today, the gods, the shrines in that areas are being sacrificed to by Konkombas. So if they don't see any Konkomba man, they can't go there. So there are a lot of indications that the Konkomba actually settled in these areas.
Thank you very much, all of you, for a job well done. But my question goes to Joseph, still on Konkomba people. You said they move around. Each time they move, okay, they move around. Now my question is, why are they moving? Are they nomads? Is it because of their maybe occupation, what they do? Are they agrarians or they are nomads? And when they move, why would they move? And then the next question is, are you a Konkomba indigenous? By the interest.
Yes.
Before you answer the question, just a couple of questions for Theoneste, then Heitor, and Fatumah. So Theoneste, the population of Rwanda is 13 million, and 17.6% urban dwellers and 82.4% rural. So do you know the percentage of those who consume this potato? And which of the varieties that you listed in your presentation are indigenous to Rwanda? And to Heitor, so you said that this packaging, when it is produced, it is used for these materials. When they are produced, they are used for packaging. And in the images that you showed, we only saw packaging for eggs. Are there other things that they are used for? And Fatumah, so what is next for you here? Just reading from here. So what is next for you here? What do you think the policymakers can do to alleviate the conflict between archaeologists and the people who own it? So we can start with Fatumah.
Thank you so much, Professor. What is next? You see, these iron producers produce knives that are used in circumcision, which is one of very big ceremonies or initiation ceremonies in this part of the country, and they are the only ones that produce it. So production has to continue, but also sites are being kind of disturbed. You wouldn't find a site that is like so intact, because even the way they do their farming, they use plows. So I want to forge out a way whereby, for example, we can kind of gazette off some places that are of interest, and then probably set up things that can help have some meaningful income or kind of employment for these people, so that they don't only look at the land, but also have other means of income that they can subsidize with the farming. There is an organization called the Inzuya Masaba. They're elders in that part of the country. They're trying to work out things. So I think I could coordinate with such groups, and then we can forge our way forward. Thank you.
Okay, Amaka, thank you very much. You have two questions. Am I a Konkomba? Yes, I am. Yes. And then the second one, why are the Konkomba moving? Are they nomads? And when they move, what happens? Yes. In the first place, they are not nomads. Konkombas are agrarian farmers. They are farmers. They don't rear cattle. That is why they are not pastoralists. Yes. So I am thinking that, and this is the big argument I'm making in my book. I'm thinking that the Konkomba are naturally state evading people. They do not want to be under political control. That is why they moved. And so in their movement, you'll find that when they are being threatened by a state building group, then they move away. And when they move away, they don't move away to areas that are accessible. They move away to rugged terrains that are not easily accessible by these states. And so I am making the argument that it is because they don't want to stay under any state control. That is why they move. And whenever they are threatened, they move again. And because they have moved into areas that are so infertile, the Oti Valley, where they found themselves, is so infertile and it is so prone to flooding. And so they are now forced to move out into areas that they can farm. And when during the colonial period, they found that wherever they go, they are meeting the colonial states. And so they had to move back into areas that they had moved centuries ago. And so these movements are movements that are orchestrated to avoid state control. Thank you.
Okay, Prof, thanks for the questions. You ask if we can apply this material for other types of pockets. Yes, that's possible to use this material. As I show on one of my slides here, there is a lot of applications of green coir in different types of industry, in different types of products. In my state, I use only plate and egg tray to create a gap on my studs. But we can use for containers, to do cups, to do bottles, to do takeaways.
Okay. Thank you for asking questions. Two questions. The first one was about the percentage of people in Rwanda who consume French fries. Actually, this kind of product, it is nowadays, especially in Africa, we classify it as a modern diet whereby people are changing in a food lifestyle. Where French fries are mostly consumed in urban areas, and the percentage of people who consume them, it is not known, but we are interested to know in the urban area whereby I will conduct a risk assessment in Kigali city, capital city of Rwanda, and I will be collecting a special sample from food service establishment, purposefully asking people who consume this French fries product. For the second question was about the potato variety we use in Rwanda for processing French fries. There is one variety which has a good quality for processing, but this one is a bit expensive, and people they use, and generally they use what they can find. Everyone is not accessible for that. A good variety called Kinigi. So for people who have money, they can afford that one. Yeah, that's what I can say. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question about French fries also. This is for my 17-year-old son who consumes too many French fries. So what's the major health risks for children or teenagers for consuming the toxic? I think you called it a toxic. I might have missed it at the beginning of the talk. Yeah, yeah. So what are the major health concerns, and how many French fries do you need to eat before you might have some symptoms of some side effects?
Thank you for interesting question about exposure to young people on acrylamide. Normally, this is a most concern young people, where young people they like this kind of product, and so concern is most for young people, children. So because they eat it frequently, and when we try to do a risk assessment, we combine like the weight of person and the frequency of consumption, and even the quantity they eat. So in terms of risk assessment, so it varies with the individuals, like the way you consume it. I don't know how person may take, but what I can know is just to know how frequently you take the product, how much, and also the weight of the person, so that I can estimate that you are not safe consuming this product or not. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, I actually, so I started off with two questions, and then when you answered this question just now, I had a third question, but I'll get you afterwards. Okay, so for Fatumah, the question that I had was actually based on the response that you gave. I was really interested in how you said that that the iron production that is used for circumcision. So, but then you also mentioned that that actually this knowledge is waning, and it's also very difficult to produce. So I was actually, and then I think you also mentioned that that the way that they, not this through the smelting, but however they're doing it now, excuse my ignorance of however they melt it or how they produce it, is inferior. So I was actually wondering, for like ritual purposes or medical purposes like circumcision, are they always seeking out knives that are manufactured in this much older traditional way, or are they also incorporating these more like newer, easier ways of producing these knives, or are they even resorting to imported things? So trying to figure out like how the through line of the ritual in all of this. I hope that makes sense. And then I had for Joseph just a question about, or a suggestion of, like, it seems to me part of what is the interesting about your work is it's kind of forcing us to like rethink how we think about indigeneity, and what constitutes who is indigenous, and you know the tension between the indigenous and the settler, and a lot of that has to do with sort of time and who gets there first. But when you're thinking about this mobile population, you're not thinking about a kind of continuous presence, right? And so I think for me, it would be really great to hear, and not necessarily now, but to really sort of hear you in your work, really think more about how your work contributes to this really broad, I think, global literature on indigeneity. I think you're poised to make some really interesting contributions to that and to bring Africa into that conversation in great ways. And then just for you, so the really quick question was just like if indeed the people who have access to these French fries are urban dwellers who have a lot of money, are there other sort of are there other kind of like almost like is this like a class analysis of what people who have money and have access to not just these particular French fries, but a range of other kinds of foods or living practices that may also be contributing to negative health consequences? So.
Okay, so thank you very much for those presentations. So I have two quick questions, one for Fatumah and then the other one for Theo. So with regards to Fatumah, I just wanted to find out if you also look at the applications of those metals in trade in the 1200s, and then also what happened to the knowledge between 1200 and 1700s in terms of Africa. So how have we been able to curate and transfer that knowledge? With regards to Theo, and also partly Hector as well. So we're talking about French fries or potatoes. Are there African varieties of the potato that are less carcinogenic that we can use to scale up or for business opportunities across the continent? And to use also in the fast food industry, particularly in countries like South Africa as well. So yeah, and then Hector as well. So that particular plastic, what could we replace currently, and that can be more sustainable in the using of the fibers from the coconut? And can we grow the coconuts in sufficient volumes to replace a lot of the plastic?
Thank you, Prof. Thank you, Karen, for that question about the circumcision. Well, one of the reasons why there is continuity is actually for production of iron, in as much as they are not going the indigenous way, is the knives that they produce. These knives have to be indigenous. And what they are doing, because of the advancement in diseases and hygiene and that kind of thing, they are producing many knives so that they use one knife for each particular person that they are going to be circumcising. So they don't import any new knives. They do it indigenously. Yep. And for Mundia, thank you for the question. Well, like I said, the knowledge is really at this point dying out because we don't have a lot of literature, first of all, to refer to, but also the people that are in existence right now are not knowledgeable about this. So we are trying to salvage what we have. What these, we are trying to look at these smiths, the contemporary smiths, because you find that some of them are from the lineage of those people where doing iron smelting in the past. So it is this knowledge that I'm trying to kind of salvage and see how we can, we can reserve it and have it for the next generation. I don't know if I've answered you. Thank you.
Okay, I'm very happy that it is my host that
I hope that I understand your question. Mundi, you ask about the sustainable of use green coconuts and plastic. Definitely, that's very sustainable. Why? Because green coconut is very cheap, is available, is biodegradable, is very nice for the environment. When we compare to the plastic, it's very expensive. It's not very good for the environment. The only problem that we have on natural fiber, that's a challenge to use. The natural fiber, as you see here in my slide, we discuss about the properties, all the things that we need to do, let's say, to use even natural fiber or plastic. We have to understand the properties. The big problem in natural fiber, we have a lot of water in the material. This is the big issue that we have. This is the big challenge that we have to face, but it's very suitable to use. And this is the way the world is driving now to try. Technically, I will tell you something. I don't believe that we'll avoid to use plastic because this is a store for a lot of people that will go on this way. Definitely, we cannot go on this way. I believe that will reduce the use of plastic. This is the way that I believe.
thank you for asking the two questions. The first one was about how people who don't have like money. Okay, thank you. I get you. So, as I have said, acrylamide can occur in many products, not only French fries. So I was interested in French fries or a fried potato because the one who mostly contribute to acrylamide exposure. So all kind of the many product that we consume cooked at high temperature and low moisture, they containing protein and reducing sugar, automatically they will have acrylamide. We have in coffee, beer, and milk also, pasteurized milk. We find biscuit, we find acrylamide everywhere. And it is difficult even to avoid the formation. That's why they are trying just to put like regulation whereby people, they can try to minimize as low as achievable, where country can't, government, competent authority can say that we have to limit acrylamide. So coming back to I've forgotten to talk about the health effect. We normally have two kind of effect. One is cancer, but this one, there is a lot of discussion about it in humans. It was tested in animals, but in humans is not yet, there is no evidence. But when we are in toxicology, we say that something which can harm an animal, we have to pay attention. That's why acrylamide is classified as a probable carcinogen. And another adverse effect for human, the one conducted in human is neurotoxicant. That one was approved that it can cause neurotoxicant effect in children and even in adult people. Coming to the question of Mundia, he was asking if in Africa there is a good variety or a specific variety for potato production. This is a challenging issue in Africa, especially in our farmers. Most of farmers, they don't grow fresh produce for industries. There is a gap in plant management. Now you can imagine, probably as you are from a business perspective. So I can let you know that KFC, when it comes doing business in Africa, in Rwanda and Kenya, they used to import potato from US. Can you imagine? Because don't find people can grow a good quality potato. So it is a challenge, but like in US, I have a proceeding last time with my host. We visited Michigan State University. They have about 24 varieties that they breed purposely for processing, so which is good. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So Fatumah, there is a question which you can think about later online. It says whether there are possibilities of accommodating issues of conservation in your paper when you develop it further. So at this stage, we've come to the end of our first colloquium series, and please let's put our hands together for our scholars. Thanks to our audience online for joining us this evening, and thanks everyone for also coming this evening to join us. And please join us for a reception in that small corner there. So thanks to everyone, particularly our host who are able to join us today, and also everyone. Have a great evening, everyone.